I don't agree with everyone 100%. That's fine. We're humans. We have preferences. Sometimes it's good or bad. Sometimes it's right or wrong. Sometimes it's you look funny or you wear your hair this way and I don't like that.
Yeah.
So be it, you know. But I think there's inherent value in human beings.
So Kevin, thank you for being on the show. This is so awesome. Kevin's been on our show before. This is your second show. The last time you were here with Quentin Aaron from the lead actor from The Blind Side.
Yeah.
And so it's so cool to have you back on again.
I appreciate it.
The last time you were on, you had a awesome Hawaiian shirt on.
Absolutely,
do you remember that?
yeah.
It was St. Patrick's Day because it
was
like
St. Patty's
green
Day,
everywhere.
Yeah.
It was so funny. All right, so I find that a lot of people currently right now, I feel like, especially with like everything that's going on right now, that like people are just putting labels on people. This was like our big mission of our show, and like seeing people as humans and not as these like, I don't know, differences that we have. Do you see this happening a lot in your world? Because it's like everywhere that I see.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really saddened me a lot lately, and I'm guilty of doing it too. But I think we tend to dehumanize one another, and maybe part of it's because of social media.
Define dehumanize.
Yeah. I think sometimes media and social media make it easy for us to look at X group and say they're different from me, so they're bad or they're wrong or I don't like them, and we don't really value people as human beings and realize that people have thoughts and opinions and emotions. They might believe that for a certain reason, but I think too often we subscribe certain values and certain motives behind people without really knowing them.
How do you not fall into that of dehumanizing someone? I know that we're both guilty of it, but how do you? What's your typical like go-to that prevents you from viewing someone as an enemy? Yeah,
I think what's helped me a lot lately, because this is something I'm really trying to focus on right now, is let's say it's a popular figure, maybe it's a politician because that's hot right now, or a celebrity, and they hold a view that I don't agree with. I try to think of the rationale behind that view. I think it's wrong because of this, but they probably don't think the same. So what could they be thinking that is rationalizing it in their head to be right? And I try to start there. So maybe breaking it down and trying to empathize to some degree.
Is that like emotional intelligence? Like what is that makes you abstract from the situation and say there's a reason why they're doing this? Whether it's nature, whether it's nurture, there's some reason why that person has that, like whatever that is, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think first of all, people should be held accountable for the things they believe and say. But I do think that at a core level, I'm trying to love people like I want to be loved, right? And so if someone disagrees with me, I'd like them to talk to me about it and to hold a conversation and say, why do you think that way? And I really value that. So I'm trying to give the same value to others that I would hope they would give to myself.
Yeah. The last show we did an hour special with Tiger King's Carole Baskin. And she is someone who's probably one of the most talked about people in 2020. She's accused of feeding her husband to a tiger. When you hear the name Carole Baskin, do you think, what are those thoughts that come to your head?
Yeah, I think of a show that I watched a few episodes of with my wife and then turned off. No, but I think I do think of the things that we accuse her of, right, or the things that the media has portrayed her as. Full disclosure, I haven't done a ton of research into Carole Baskin, the person. But I think if I really wanted to engage with her or really wanted to get to know who the real Carole Baskin was, I would try to do that. I would try to start with, how has she grown up? What has she done with her life? Who is she other than the person from Tiger King?
Yeah. When we did the interview with her, there was a lot of bizarre events in her life that she experienced that I totally could see, why she's... I don't even see, and it's hard for me, like in the interview, I've never seen Tiger King, so like for me, I don't think she's this crazy person, but everyone around me says, that she's crazy. But I just, and I don't know if I'm naive or if like, that's what I wish everyone had.
Yeah, I think honestly, I think we need to have a healthy balance of both. I don't think we can go around with our head in the sand, not knowing anything about anyone and
Because there's right and wrong.
having blinders on. Yeah,
Right?
I believe there's
like,
right and wrong.
Good
yeah.
actions, bad actions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So how do you then still find that person as a beautiful human being while condoning their action?
I'm not sure if I would say that saying someone is a beautiful human being is condoning their action.
Well, how do you do both, right? Like, how do you do both, right? How do people look, I don't know. I'm trying to think of an example. Carol Baskin's all that's coming to my head. You know, I asked her, like, I asked Carol, why do you think Joe Exotic does what he does, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she, like, was trying to understand him a little bit of, like, trying to understand, like, why he, I think she was, you know, stating that he's, you know, like, she did it very tactfully, like, wanting to seek attention is what the big drive is. So she was kind of, like, trying to humanize him and at least understand, but at the same time being like, you need to be in prison. Right? Like, how do you do both?
I mean, I think for me personally, I see inherent value in every human being, right? So I think from the moment you're conceived to the moment you die, that there's value in you and that you're a valuable person. And so I think people are capable of or deserve that worth. I don't agree with everyone 100%. That's fine. We're humans. We have preferences. Sometimes it's good or bad. Sometimes it's right or wrong. Sometimes it's you look funny or you wear your hair this way and I don't like that.
Yeah.
So be it, you know. But I think there's inherent value in human beings.
Well, I think the other end of the spectrum that I think happens a lot in society, correct me if I'm wrong, is that, like, when we hear loving someone, we hear you have to accept their lifestyle. Do you feel like that's very portrayed in society? Like, like, if I have to love someone, their happiness is what I have to focus on. And I would argue that, like, that's not the case. You can love someone and say, I don't accept whatever that lifestyle is.
Yeah. I think you can love and not agree. I don't see what's wrong with loving and not agreeing with someone.
Yeah. I just feel like that's not what happens. I feel like society goes into two worlds. I feel like society goes into this, like, if you love them, then you have to, the word is accept, right? You have to accept who that person is. And it's like, well, you can love them, but you don't have to say, like, what they're doing is right. Right,
you're right, absolutely. I think culture is very polarizing. And so if you're not one thing, you're definitely the other. And I don't think that's true. I think you and I might not agree on something, right? You might be a Boston Red Sox fan, and I love the Yankees. I find some value in you, even though you like the Red Sox for some reason. You know, but I mean, and that's a silly example, but I do think that it doesn't have to be black or white. There are gray areas where, yes, I don't agree with everything you do, but I still love you. You're still a human that I care about.
Do you feel like, I just feel like in the media, especially recently, I don't want to say especially recently because I think that puts a lot of fear that, like, society has not been this way, but there's a lot of, like, just anger and hate in the media, right? Like, whether what side of the political spectrum you're on. What do you think the solution is for people, regardless of, like, if you're a Democrat or Republican? Like, how do you... I think, how does someone who's a Democrat view Trump in a positive light, and how does someone who's a Republican view Joe Biden in a positive light?
That's tough. That's a tough one. I think a lot of it has to do with stepping away from everything you see reported on and doing the research yourself. That's what I at least can do personally. You know, I might not agree. I don't agree with either of them 100% of the time. Probably not even 50% of the time. But I think I could step back, do some research, rationalize some of the things they do. And if I can't rationalize it, okay, you know, that's not something I agree with, okay. But I find you as a valuable human being and I can latch onto this thing you've done correctly.
I think it's so hard because we, like, scroll through our social media and we see this article that was published out, and, like, it's clearly has rhetoric in there to, like, make us dislike someone, and then we take that as truth and then we go and share that information with other people.
It takes intentionality. It definitely does to be intentional about, okay, I'm going to do the research and find the facts, right? They might an article might reference you know, a law that was signed into place in the 1990s or something. Okay, well, go back and read that law. Like, find out exactly what was going on and for that law and what was going on around it, and formulate your own truth out of that.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best advice that I would give to someone too, is really just dig and find the truth. Like seek, I guess my advice for everyone is seek truth and you will find it.
Absolutely.
And I think that's something that we gotta focus on.